From Informa TechTarget, I'm Beth Pariseau, and this is IT Ops Query. This podcast distills the signal from the noise about enterprise software development and platform engineering. Each week, we'll talk to expert guests about the latest tech industry news and trends that engineering and IT leaders need to know. Don't forget to subscribe to IT Ops Query for more conversations on AI and the future of the enterprise digital workspace. Jamil Valliani is Vice President and Head of AI Product at Atlassian, which he joined in 2023. Before that, he spent 20 years at Microsoft, where he built and led product teams for Microsoft's Cortana and Bing. Since Valliani joined the company, Atlassian has expanded its AI offerings from an AI assistant for Jira and Confluence to the core of its cloud-based enterprise service management platform under the brand Rovo. It has also officially started phasing out its on-premises data center edition, confirming in September that most of that product line will reach end of life in 2029. This week, Atlassian held its Team 25 Europe conference in Barcelona, where it continued repackaging its software products and AI agents into collections, a strategy first introduced at Team 25 US with Teamwork and Strategy collections. The new software collection launched this week includes existing tools like Bitbucket Pipelines, and Compass, along with the newly available Rovo Dev Agent and DX, an engineering intelligence company Atlassian acquired in September. Welcome, Jamil.
Thank you, Beth, for having me here.
Thanks for joining us. I know you're busy with Team 25 Europe coming up next week, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to have a chance to talk to your audience and tell you a bit about what we're doing with Rovo and AI around the company.
Sure. So just to take a step back for a moment, at Team 25 US in April, there was a lot of discussion about the industry's growing pains with AI usage, especially ROI. How do things look 6 months later, just in general?
So we're very proud of our progress and what we've been able to deliver to customers just in the past 6 months. When we talked and when we kind of heard that buzz about 6 months ago about how do we get the ROI, one of the first realizations we had is that we need to get these tools into the hands of substantially all of our customers. And so we announced this pretty significant change in how we're going to offer Rovo by integrating it into the platform and giving it pretty much to everybody who is a paying subscriber, and really focusing on getting them to learn the tools, learn how they can transform their workplaces and their processes with those tools. And that would be the way sort of forward, right? Like, I don't think this is something you just buy out of the box and just say, now I'm AI enabled. So just in that 6 months since we said we would do it, we did it. So we now have over 3 million users every month using Rovo capabilities across the product line. The Rovo Search product grew over 100 times in its usage in that time, as people really got to see what enterprise search could really be like and kind of feel like something so much more relevant than what they're used to in their offices. Rovo Chat is getting 50 times more usage than it did 6 months ago, and that's, again, people are just kind of saying, I do have an AI teammate that does know what's going on, and they're starting to use it more and more, and they're understanding the capabilities there. And I think the most exciting is that we now have just this last month alone, over 800,000 business workflows of all types of flavors have been accelerated through agents. And that's like a 50% month-over-month increase for us.
Wow.
And that was about 9,000 agents were created just last month alone by our various customers. And that just represents so much real-world savings. And we've talked to customers. We at Team Europe, we have Mercedes-Benz will talk to us about what they've been doing with agents, trying to eliminate that manual duplicate ticket reviews, and automated reporting will help them all focus more on doing what they do best, delivering great cars. Royal Caribbean has been using unified search now and Rovo to search across their Atlassian, SharePoint, and OneDrive content. And Tempo.io has actually accelerated a lot of the work processes from their teams across the board, in some cases by as much as 3 times in time savings. So it's a really, really exciting early benefits that we're seeing from these customers just in the 6 months since we started this rollout. So it's been exciting times.
Was folding the AI into the subscription, as you mentioned, the real catalyst for that? Or was there something about the tools that have rolled out that helped there too?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of both. So for sure, the ability for everyone to start trying, especially search and chat, without having to think about, do I need to add this thing to my subscription and set everything up. for them just to see it start working one day, I think was a huge catalyst in just getting awareness and comfort with the new tools. We've also been investing a ton in improvements. So, for example, search relevance is improved by over 20%. Performance is now improved by 30% there. Um, we continue to ship like just more and more improvements into chat that make it feel like a consumer experience, because we know enterprise customers are never get that benefit of like that high grade consumer experience, and we felt that was important to bring. And we see as we do that, the engagement just goes up a ton. So we've been doing all of that in parallel. Where I think we've made the most visible progress is in Studio. 6 months ago we had a fairly simple experience around creating agents, for example. Now with Studio, and what we're announcing at Team and bringing into beta, is this ability to have a single interface where you create through natural language everything from new agents to automations to even entire Forge apps. And as we've sort of seen customers, trying out these capabilities, that improvement that I mentioned around, workflow automation and improvements, that 800,000 number, in just the last month alone, like that, we think is just going to skyrocket. So it's been a combination of both, but certainly, I do believe just giving it to everyone in their hands and helping them think about their own application at work has been a substantial move and a benefit for them.
Well, great. A lot has changed in a very short period of time.
Fun times.
So, speaking of ROI, I know that's part of what DX has been surfacing for customers in its tooling, and what will be part of the software collection with DX. But now that that product is part of Atlassian, how do you expect that to expand?
I think that the trend you'll see is when we look at our software teams, kind of our original audience, who we still care deeply and serve deeply. Uh, Everything we're doing in that software collection is about accelerating every step of that development cycle.
Mm.
And I think what DX gives us and our customers is visibility into that whole cycle. Where are the snacks? I think a typical developer only spends a portion of their workday actually writing code. They're often doing other things like managing their backlogs, reading spec documents, trying to work on designs, communicate with colleagues. These are all things that have optimization opportunity, but without that insight into saying, like here's where we seem to be spending more cycles than necessary. What if we can optimize that with AI? We think that DX gives us that insight, gives our customers that insight, and then you can see us. I think you'll see us starting to actually bring tools and agents to market that optimize some of the most common pain points in that entire workflow.
Cool. Data-driven decision making.
Absolutely, yeah. We think that's where a lot of companies are going to be heading in the next year or two, as they really think about AI transformation in the workplace. Is they're going to look at these old processes they've had for so many years and really just systematically break them down and say, okay, where can we simplify and accelerate with the tools that are coming to market?
And in the meantime, what does Rovo Dev bring to the table at GA? Does GA mean there's a service level agreement, or is there anything different about it than in preview earlier this year?
In the preview, we were really having a certain number of our customers just get their hands on it and giving us feedback. In GA now, you'll actually see the ability for Rovo Dev to go and actually use it the same way Atlassians use it, which is actually at scale. Every customer can now go and have Rovo Dev look at the issues in their backlog and actually get pull request recommendations written up by Rovo Dev proactively. And then there'll be a model where for every request that is successful and then the review accepted, like we'll have like a chargeback for that, right? Which is where we feel like is the most fair thing, where people, as they see benefit, they pay a credit essentially. We think that's like a fair way for folks to safely experiment with this, and as they're getting more value out of it, we are able to go and generate more value for ourselves. We think that's the right model there, and that's what we're bringing to market with RovoDev going to GA. I think we'll also see our customers will also experience that the quality of code generated by RovoDev should be substantially higher than perhaps what they're used to with other tools. And that's because RovoDev has so much context. It's actually pulling data from the Atlassian properties that the customer has, like that has the Jira issue and the entire history of comments and other similar issues that may have been solved, and the pull request behind them and the other knowledge base articles that map to it. They have direct access to Confluence, to GitHub repos. All that context really helps us in measurable ways show Rovo Dev actually has a higher success rate than any other tool out there that we think will show the value to our customers.
Great. Okay. And just another question on DX. Um, is there anything that they bring in that will give people visibility into the conversations people are having with AI agents? What were the prompts? What were the responses? And kind of evaluate, trace back those conversations with the code that resulted?
In DX, there's certainly capabilities there that we'll be exploring. We actually generalize that ability. So
Mm,
when people build agents in studios, one of the things we'll talk about at Team is actually the ability for any agent, for the creator to actually go and look at evals. Like, so for example, they can run evals and say, hey, like, I have test cases. Let me go make sure that they're actually being run successfully and that my agent's getting better. There are also ways for them to look at real examples and real data that customers have submitted and say, hey, like, was it successful? Was it not? So I can learn from that.
hmm
And then there's like a bunch of auditability. So like, hey, getting insights, for example, was my agent run successfully a lot? Was it run by a lot of people or by a few people? Those are all tools we're actually bringing to the platform so that anyone who creates agents and runs them on our platform can actually see that and use that to hopefully make their agents better.
And will they be able to roll that information up to managers, say software engineering managers, just to see, how the team is using these tools and how they're performing?
Yeah, we're certainly working on those capabilities. We're introducing like a lot of those basic controls first. So a lot of customers, for example, will say, "Well, I want my agents to only work in a certain, for a certain group of people, for example,
Hmm.
or just be visible only to me until I get to a point where I'm comfortable with the quality to raise them." So we're introducing those controls first, and then as we get more and more signal back from our customers, we'll certainly expand in the directions that they lead us to.
Okay. With things changing so fast and furious,
Yeah.
what do you think is the biggest remaining challenge for enterprise AI agent adoption? What are
Oh boy,
people kind of up against right now?
it's hard to boil it down to one single thing.
Mm,
Maybe a few areas that I think a lot about. The first is still for a lot of customers getting the tools deployed in the hands of their end users. We
mm,
made certainly a lot of progress. From our side, we said, look, like let's just make sure that the packaging and all that's not in the way. Everyone should have access to it. But
hmm
for a lot of companies, they're working to figure out what their standards are, what their practices are, which teams will have access first. And our goal with them is to walk with them on that journey, make sure that they have all of the sort of security and control mechanisms that they need to make sure they can roll this out in a way that they feel comfortable with. So, for example, we've started offering an Atlassian hosted LLM. So there are some folks
mm,
who are not comfortable or can't, for regulatory reasons, use an external LLM provider. So we said, okay, we'll host one ourselves, and that should hopefully help eliminate a barrier. Some folks need role-based access controls because they can have certain departments adopt first before other departments.
mm,
So we've been trying to adopt that. So we're trying to meet customers and the admin community where they're at on that front by saying, hey, let's give you all the controls so that you can manage your risk and kind of ease in there. But that is still like an area we partner a lot with, especially with our bigger customers on.
hmm
The second is really, I kind of call it the etiquette, right? Like I think we're introducing a new capability, like AI as your teammate, and
mm.
that's a pretty novel concept, right? Like people are seeing these agents come in, like even if you're like on an online meeting these days, you'll see like, oh, like there's a recording agent in my meeting, and it's like, oh, like do I have to behave differently, and what's
Huh.
being recorded, and what's it
Mm,
going to say about me later?
mm,
It's kind of a novel thing, and you can imagine that same thing coming into other tools, right? If you see an agent starting to work on your behalf, and you're like, oh, like did I want you to do that? Did I not? And so what we're doing a lot with the advances we made is saying, hey, like how do we go and give people all these tools and the best practices so they know how to engage the agents, how to make it part of their team, how to think of them as accountable team members, and things that can be controlled at the right point in time, but also then eventually trusted to do more and more. Something simple like being able to in a Jira issue at mention an agent, right? And say, hey, like, can I assign this to you, or can I mention you and trust you to go and take a specific action, but then not take it over the top? We're going to show that we think we've made actually substantial progress, and we're excited about sharing, like for example, the ability to assign even a third party agent, a task, and seeing that work out really well. So I do think though that as customers bring these capabilities to their offices and their workplaces, there's going to be a bit of an adaptation period where people say, like this is what the agent should do. This is how we interact with it. This is the sort of norms. So a simple example could be today, if you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks, there's a practice saying, hey, like, why don't you write down, the steps that you take for certain tasks so that somebody else can go do that, right? It's like, well, we want to think the same way about an agent, right? Like, maybe there's certain areas where, hey, like, I'm the single point of failure, or this is like just taking too much time. What's the best way for me to capture this? Push it to an agent, make sure that the agent works well enough, and then share that with the team, and then describe it to the team, right? That might be the new way of doing a task like that. But all early muscles that are getting built right now. And it's been actually a lot of fun for us to go work with so many customers to say, like, let's see how you're doing it and what's working for you. And then slowly build those best practices. But yeah, I'd say those two things are what we work a lot on.
So how have you seen humans start to adapt? How have you seen job functions start to change as a result of using these tools?
The starting point usually is like, just tell me your pain, right? Like, everyone has things in their job that they wish they could do less of, and if they could do less of it, they'd do something else more. And so as we go to customer sites and we say, tell us about your day, like, tell us what some of the tasks you do are that seem so frustrating. And oftentimes in there we find an opportunity, right? Say, hey, let's go find one thing that in that flow. It doesn't have to even be the whole flow. It could be one part of it that's really painful. And let's start figuring out how we can go and work with you to build the right agent, or introduce the right search or chat capabilities to make that a bit better. And we'll work together. We'll have a proof of concept. We'll try it out together, and they'll say, oh, like, that really is better. Even if it's 20-30% better, that's still better than before. And we know that we can work on it. So as we kind of get signal back, as people give us all the different cases, we can say, okay, let's go and give more instructions to the agent. Let's perhaps create multiple scenarios for the agent to handle. It's just a capability we have now. Let's create an automation that weaves several agents together that might solve more and more of these cases. So we can kind of expand that way once we kind of get our first foot in there together and solve more and more problems. But at the end of the day, when a customer feels like, hey, this first agent or this first sort of problem has now a set of agents working to almost automatically to make it a bit better, that usually is like a good way for people to start thinking, oh, like, what are the 5 or 10 other things that can happen? I find that's also paired with like leadership. At Atlassian, we have our founder, Mike, we have our president, Anu, all the C-suite are often building their own agents or running searches, and they are setting up channels in Slack to talk to their teams about, hey, I tried out this agent, or I just built this thing to make this better. What are you all doing? And their teams seeing their own leaders like transforming their patterns and their work really inspires others. And they've actually that's actually taken hold in a really magical way. Like, now we have a case where every department has actually a set of agents that are helping to transform their work, and those leaders are evangelizing and sort of promoting the use of those agents, which has, I think, also helped a ton kind of reinforce that behavior, that transformative behavior.
Are there still trust issues? Are people still worried that they'll be replaced by agents?
I actually hear it a lot more in like non-employee conversations and non-company conversations. I hear it more from like you're talking to like folks in the investor and media and that kind of community. And because like I think when people actually start using them and they apply them to their work, they kind of realize, oh, this is just taking the stuff I don't want to do off my plate. Like, nobody was hired to write a status report. Like, it's not like a thing, the thing that you were hired and promoted based on. It was the thing you got to do, right? To move your job forward, to help your team, work together. Nobody was hired to go and say, hey, I need to go and clean up the backlog of your items. Like, that's not the thing that you're hired to do, but you got to do it to keep your team organized, right? But gosh, if you took those things off my plate, I could do a lot more of what I was hired to do. And I do think just taking any historical perspective in our industry over the last 30, 40 years, introduction of the PC, introduction of mobile, introduction of internet, they have always created new opportunities and dramatically new opportunities, because people, again, they're focused now on like the thing they can be good at, or being more creative, being more innovative. And I think this will be a similar, if not even bigger opportunity than those transformations.
Have you seen that start to happen? within customers, or is it still too early yet?
We certainly see examples of that happening. Some of the examples I mentioned earlier where, Tempo is saying, hey, like now instead of having every team member have to go and do spend time writing like a status report or like, writing my roadmap or whatever, the agents are helping them get that started. That means that they're focused a lot more on actually doing the work. I got this great example. They have an IT department that has to go and make sure that various equipment cabinets, like with wires and cables and different like electronic equipment and in different installations, are following certain standards.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent us a note saying, "Gosh, like it's kind of nuts, but we actually have a Confluence base that has all the standards that have to be followed, and there's like a bunch of documents that outline the standards." And we built an agent that basically just takes a photo of an equipment cabinet and analyzes the photo and says, hey, like compared to all the standards that I know in the space, what might not be being met, what looks good, what doesn't look good. And without even much prompting, it not only actually gave a pretty reasonable analysis, it started saying, well, here's how I'd remediate, or what I think we should remediate first, second, third, which again was based on like the policies that were in place. And then actually said, here's a email draft that you could actually send to that site, right? That outlines those things. And that was all with like very, very minimal prompting. And this just blew their minds because the feedback was, this just changes the whole way we can do audits. Like now we can actually spend a lot more time helping those folks remediate and make it better, instead of just trying to go and like send people out there to say, okay, here are the 5 things that are wrong.
Right.
And I think that's, that was a customer without us even, there, right? They just conceived that scenario on their own and did it and sent us the feedback. And so I think, we're seeing like folks who are, kind of having these light up moments. And then their feedback to us is not, oh, like, how can I go and do less work now? Or now I don't need as many people. It's more like, well, now I can have many people do like the things that actually are important. So it gives me a lot of promise that this is the start of some really awesome new opportunities for folks. I've had a long career in the industry. Was at Microsoft for many years before I joined Atlassian. Worked in consumer and enterprise, and I've just been so amazed by the speed of transformation that Atlassian is bringing to the market. Like if you think about it, a year ago we made Rovo generally available. 6 months ago we said we're going to give it to everyone. We've executed on all that, and now we have over 3 million people using Rovo Search, on a regular basis. That makes us like one of the biggest enterprise search players on the market. We have, these high usage stats on chat and agents. And I think that if you really, I know a lot of companies out there are, promising transformation, but I think we're really delivering it, and we have real examples to show with our customers, and we just can't wait to partner with more customers to deliver these transformations. And I think I'm just really impressed by what our customers are doing and pleased with how much we're able to go and support them in that transformation. It's just exciting.
Certainly never a dull moment right now with the way things are changing. Yeah. Well, again, thank you, Jamil.
Thanks for having me here, and always happy to catch up more.
Thank you for tuning in to IT Ops Query. To learn more about enterprise software development and platform engineering, explore our content on Informa TechTarget sites. Find us on YouTube at our channel, Eye on Tech. Subscribe to our podcast to receive the latest episodes as they drop. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Thank you for joining us.